So I am certainly no different in that I joined a new firm 3 months ahead of COVID-19 at C-suite level. I devised a comprehensive, incredible, if I say so myself, strategic plan. By March the 1st, I had approval for 3 new departments, significant hires, and a really large amount of investment. As you can imagine, by mid-March, I'd revised everything. And I really do mean everything. So today, whilst our 2020 strategic plans may not have survived first contact, I'd really like us to consider actually how have we accelerated our 2020 business strategy. So to do that, I will just go through an outline of what we'll discuss today. We will start by considering how COVID-19 has accelerated our business strategy generally. We'll then use breakout rooms to discuss this year's unexpected successes, and then we'll come back and discuss these together. We'll then touch on business strategy, and what we'll do here is focus in on one key item that will bring you the most success in 2021. And my aim for today is that you recognize how far you've come this year. We all learn from each other, and that you get a real sense of direction for next year. So as always, there is an ask. So to get us there, I'd like you to be engaged, curious, and open. It's always an excellent group in this, in the DSC, and we're always so engaged, but I really want this to be a rich and dynamic conversation rather than me talking. So I really would appreciate that, because that means that we'll all emerge in the strongest position possible for 2021. So as I've mentioned, COVID-19 has done nothing short of revolutionize and accelerate our business strategies. You only have to look at the most obvious example, which is agile working. So I've broken this down into 4 areas to help you think about your unexpected successes. So it's really in the first area given us the opportunity to expedite existing projects. A really good example for me was we already planned to do a mentoring project. However, it was for the tail end of this year. But because we had risk issues, we needed to combat professional isolation, and we also needed to give our people more supervision. We actually brought it forward by 3 months. We also doubled the number of participants, and we included an online strengths training assessment so that we could build the confidence of our people. And we did this at no cost and by using the incredible people within our teams. So it's actually a really good example of an existing project that was improved by COVID-19 and had a much bigger impact. Secondly, it's given us a really interesting permission to pivot and to experiment. So by the middle of March, our leadership had been trained on leading remote working teams. We'd off-sited 350 people. We devised a whole new strategy around client engagement so that we could help our clients ahead of time. So we'd done so much that we had never envisaged. And you might have seen things like town halls for the first time. You might have redeployed a team to meet a new revenue stream. So it gives a real permission to pivot and actually to decline some projects as well. Thirdly, and perhaps most interestingly, it's put a huge spotlight on our working practices. For me, the landscape has hopefully changed forever. Communication, culture, engagement, mental health, and well-being are all at the top of the agenda, and I think perhaps they should have always been there. And finally, I think the 4th tranche is, especially from exec level, there's a real genuineness and an openness to discuss new approaches and to collaborate at all levels. So if you have a great idea and it supports the business need, people are really open to exploring that. So with all these new opportunities, let's consider our unexpected successes that certainly weren't on any of our business plans. So we're going to do this by our first breakout room. And so the ask here is, we're going to spend 6 or 7 minutes. And what I'd like each of you to do, Julie's going to kindly take care of the breakout rooms, is I'd like you all to each discuss One unexpected success since March, and there are some tips on the screens there, but something you don't think would have occurred had the landscape not changed. And I know we've got a really diverse group here, so it can be something really big or really small. It could be developing a relationship with a new client or a stakeholder. You might have written an article from business development perspective for the first time, or you might have had to completely restructure a team and pivot, but something, because none of us knew COVID were coming, that you achieved that was an unexpected success in March. And then we'll come back and each team will discuss what happened in their conversations. So when you come back, please be ready to give one example of an unexpected success when we come back. So 6 or 7 minutes to discuss that. Thanks, Julie.
Breakout room.
No worries, you're just eager back in here.
we were in the middle of a conversation and I just started hitting a button here. It was like, oh my God.
We'll let you off, Nicola, don't worry. Right.
When I came on the call initially, my name was George and my screen was upside down. So my son had been on my computer doing a call with other friends last week or whatever, and I haven't been on Zoom since. So I was like, oh Jesus, so I had to change everything. And you know, it's funny how an 11-year-old will know very quickly how to do these things. And they're going, ah.
There's a great example of pivoting right there, Nicola.
Yes, yes.
So let me get us on the slide. So I think we are all back now. And so it'd be great to have a discussion around this. So it might help if you pop yourself on gallery view, which is the top right-hand side of the screen, just so that you can see who's talking and what's going on. So how did you all get on? Did anyone have any interesting, unexpected successes that they'd be happy to share?
I think, hi Amanda, Niamh here. Our group had a nice discussion about, and two kind of common themes came out for all of us. One was the technical, how we expedited our technical abilities, just like you were saying there, and managed, I think Kieran was saying that the company went on to working from home in 1 week instead of what would normally take about 3 years. And then all of us, how we embraced Zoom. You know, there was a couple of coaches in the room, and how up until then we could have been, you know, saying, you know, maybe, you know, Zoom isn't for coaching, but actually it works quite well. It doesn't completely replace it, but it works quite well. And then that led on to a discussion on how that gives you access to a global market and global customers. It doesn't necessarily have to be Ireland anymore. And a couple of people had that opening, that market opening up to them. So there were the two themes that mainly, I think, came out of our group.
It's a fantastic point, Niamh, in that it's very similar to with our senior partners. I never thought we would get all of them leading teams in on Zoom week 1 in March. And now how that's changed. I used to work for a global company and I was in charge of 14 jurisdictions. And trying to get us all in one location was almost impossible. Whereas now it's with time zones. It's doable. And again, there's no replacement, especially in coaching, which coaching is transformational and I'm a huge supporter of. It's not a replacement for in-person, but it's a great second place and it works really, really well. So not only have you adapted and you've overcome, you've got a new revenue stream. Mm-hmm. So that sounds like a really rich conversation. Did anyone else have any other themes or interesting, unexpected successes that came up?
Amanda, I'll comment. Can you hear me okay?
Great, thanks, Caroline.
Sorry, there was a bit coming back. We had a lovely group, actually, really nice conversation. And one of the things actually that Jonathan, if you don't mind me kind of mentioning you, Jonathan, that was the whole shift in the L&D space and how everything moved virtually, but how plans are actually for it to stay virtual. So in Jonathan's example in particular, in the L&D space, the work is all 95% virtually, I think you said, Jonathan. And it was pretty much nearly the opposite before COVID. So a complete shift, and the plan is to stay that way. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way for the future either, but I think organizations are seeing the benefit, the extra time that it brings, but it was also called out the downside as well of having to book in the coffees and things like that. But that with the extra time, it can bring other benefits, like focusing on important things that maybe people couldn't always get together in a room for. So maybe not too dissimilar to the global piece that you spoke to there, Amanda.
Yeah, it's certainly digital transformation has never been so rapid, has it? And I would agree very much so in that it's a hugely positive step forward. Yet there is no replacement. I would be a proponent of a blended learning model. And so whilst it's great to have online and it gives us access, like I said before, I don't think there's any replacement. But again, would we be doing this had COVID not happened? People are willing to share, the openness, and there's a real sort of camaraderie and a support for each other. So that sounds like it was a great conversation too, Caroline.
Yeah, nice group. Nice group.
They always are here. Perhaps one more group before we look at something else. Thank you, Caroline.
I suppose I'll share mine. It was more on a kind of a personal level where I felt, because my life simplified so much because of COVID, that actually enabled me to be more productive. And I just found I could get so much more done in such a small amount of time. So something with kind of being able to do more by doing less, paradoxically somehow.
Absolutely, Nikki. And I was very fortunate to work remotely 2 days a week anyway before COVID, and I found that's what I needed in terms of my productivity. So I can totally understand how beneficial you found that. So I will just take us off gallery view and we will go back to the slides from there. Thanks so much, Nikki. So just for the most pertinent example for me of one of the unplanned successes, and there were plenty in terms of different programs we did that we wouldn't have planned for, like the resilience program, empowering women in business. From a tech perspective, we needed to be able to sign documents remotely, so we introduced DocuSign. But very much to Nikki's point, is interestingly, our team ethos and dynamic, we were a very close team and a new team already, but there was something through our one-to-ones using Zoom, Jabber, and the camaraderie that it really galvanized our team. And I have to say, I've never felt so supported. So one of the biggest unplanned successes was actually the strength of our team and the way people came together and stepped up. And it is something that I will be so grateful for from 2020, and it's actually one of my highlights. So I think it's really clear to see that we've achieved so much more than was on our 2020 plans, and especially from those conversations, the way we adapted and overcame, especially from an IT perspective, so quickly. But as I've sort of touched on, in terms of achievement, it isn't all about the strategic plans and achieving everything that wasn't even on there. For me, I think it's really important to say that sometimes during the last year, putting one foot in front of the other, showing up for yourselves and for your teams is more success sometimes than any of these projects. So I just wanted to mention that because I know I'm really goal orientated and strategic plan focused, but you know, the human element has to be in there as well. So with all these unexpected successes, what does that actually mean for business strategy? And just before I go into business strategy, I just want to take a pause in case there are any questions or comments so far. And I think we've had a good discussion, but at any time, please do just let me know if you have any questions or comments. So Julie and I were discussing this session back in April, and the topic we'd actually planned to discuss was business strategy, how to write one, what one is, and how to modify it. But given the current landscape and given the phase of COVID we're in, we actually thought it'd be much more beneficial for you to focus on how you've actually already accelerated your business strategy. So for example, you are now coaching global clients that you didn't have access to before. So we decided to focus on how you've accelerated your business strategy so that you can continue to build on this next year, and to consider your max impact item. And this is so we can give you a real sense of direction for 2021. Now, if you'd like a detailed 40-minute business strategy session in January, please let Julie know. As Nikki and a few others will know, business strategy is my absolute passion. However, we didn't think it was the right time, and I know I certainly wouldn't want to go through in detail that in November. So if you'd like something like that in January, please let Julie know. I'd be really happy to do that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a whistle-stop overview of business strategy in one slide, and then we're going to go into your max impact item. So what is a business strategy? In really, really simple terms, it's your rationale. It's the reasons you are taking a series of steps to get you from A to B. And it really is that simple. Whether you're a consultant, the managing director, a head of a department, or an employee, everyone needs a business strategy. It acts as your guide in everything you do. It's really your North Star. But most importantly, it's the absolute key for you to be able to create a compelling vision. And you need a compelling vision so that you can deliver it, so that you can share it, and so that you can have impact with it. So everyone needs a business strategy. And as I said, we can go into that in another session if you'd like to do that. So with today's time constraints, today we're going to focus on your maximum impact item. And so what is your max impact item? Your max impact item is the single item that if you addressed it would have the most impact on your business. So if you were the 10th largest provider of widgets in Ireland and you wanted to get to number 5 by the end of Q1 next year, what would be the single thing that would give you the biggest impact? Or as was said earlier, if you're locally running coaching sessions, and you decided that you wanted to have a global strategy or you wanted to have top 5 institutional clients, what would be the number 1 step to get there? So we're actually going to do this in breakout rooms because I really, really want you to have this takeaway of your max impact item. So we're going to go into breakout rooms for 8 to 10 minutes, and you might want to take a photo of this slide now to help you. And what I want you to spend the majority of your time on is item 3. And the whole reason for this is it will get you really clear on the one thing you need to do to have a phenomenal sense of direction for 2021. So all you need to do is spend 30 seconds on item 1 and item 2. And you know this, it's instinctive. So please don't think too much, just go with it. You have the answer. So 30 seconds on, where are you right now in terms of your business strategy? Or it could be your role or your career. Item 2, 30 seconds. Where do you want to be by the end of Q1 next year? And as I've said, be instinctive, you know the answer. Essentially, what you're doing is you're saying, I'm in A and I want to get to B. That's it. It's as simple as that. And then what you do is on item 3, spend most of your time here. What is the single item that if you addressed it would give you the maximum impact to get there? You now know what the gap is. What one thing would get you 70% of the way there? If it's a new role or career, it could be confidence. It could be doing your CV, but don't think about the how. Your single item would be, I want to have a new job by the end of Q3. And what would be my maximum impact item? And then once you've got your single item, note down why dealing with this one item would have the most impact. Why must you make this change? And there's one ask here. When you're doing this process, you are not allowed to get into the how. It's called the tyranny of how, and you will find so many different ways when you have your aha moment and see the one item that could get you most of the way towards your goals. So there is absolutely no discussing of the how. So you have around, I'm just checking for time here, we'll actually have 8 minutes. So
Amanda, can I just interrupt you for a sec? So we can't see that slide actually. So if you want to pop it up, or I can't anyway. I don't know if that's just me.
Thank you so much. Can you see it there?
No, not just yet.
Can you see any of the slides?
No, I think I'm still seeing just in gallery view at the moment.
I think you were sharing your screen, Amanda, and that stopped.
Yep, let me see. Thank you so much. Let's it says screen share is on, but look, we like we've been talking about, we will adapt and overcome.
Happening now. You have it there.
There we go. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. So it's actually good to have the recap, because what it'll mean, this is the whole point of the session. This will be so instilled in your brains right now. So can everyone see that there? So the items 1 and 2, quick fire, instinctive, you know the answer. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? Item 3, this is where you focus. What single item, if you addressed it, would get you most of the way there? Then quickly note down why doing this will have such a significant impact. And I really find if you can connect with having achieved this, how you feel, what will be going on. So it might be getting a new hire. And if you did that, what would it do? It would mean you could deal with new strategic projects. You could answer questions quicker. There would be less risk. So once you get to the what impact will it have, it will really help you with that single item. So has everyone had a chance to take a photo of that slide? Now you can see them. Brilliant. So very happy before you go in. Are there any questions on what you should be doing during that breakout room? Okay, well, let's get to it, and then we'll come back and discuss again. Through. So I just wanted to check in, is there any group that wanted to share one of their max impact items? Was there any area that was really surprising, or something that you noticed that you might not have before that could have a really significant impact for you?
Well, I'm happy to go for our group, if that's Niamh and Caroline. It was interesting. The one thing we both had, it was a real coincidence that the one thing that we all picked instinctively, we knew it instinctively, was the whole piece around building relationships and networking. And I suppose up until now, it's one of the common themes for all of us was that a lot of our business had come through word of mouth, and we hadn't really had to go out and be proactive. But during this space, it's given us time to reflect, where do we actually want to be, and be more strategic about it. But I suppose the other thing that came out is we are very good at coaching others about networking and building relationships. And the challenge is, we need to do it for ourselves, walk the talk. And, even like, I know myself, it would be one of my strengths, networking, but I just haven't been doing it. I have contacts. I've never really just been strategic and intentional about going out there and connecting. And so one of the things with the three of us, we said, even after today, there's a lot of things we have in common. We're going to hook up again and just continue that conversation and challenge and support each other. So it was really good.
That
I don't know
is...
if Niamh and Caroline, you want to add to that?
No, you did a great job, Darren. Thank you.
That is so powerful and insightful and resonates so strongly with me. I think especially in this group, we do this for everyone else. We do not tend to do it for ourselves. And it's been something, BD has been something significantly that I would have very good expertise in, but I have not done for myself. And so that brings me so nicely onto the sort of the conclusion, really. So thank you so much for that. And I am really grateful that you've got an actual outcome, that you're going to meet together and have that peer, because you've just answered my next sort of 3 points in that. As we know, but if we really focus on ourselves, a goal without a date is just a dream. And we all know this from the L&D and coaching space, that if you take one small step in the next 72 hours, you will exponentially increase the chances of success of that goal. And the other two things, which you've so succinctly said, are that will almost guarantee success. One small step in the next 72 hours, write it down and tell someone. And if you do that, you're on a surefire way to make it happen. So if you take only one small action today, you'll build momentum. And the hardest part is always starting. So I think it's great that you've got that from that group, and it's really a pleasure for me to hear that. So thank you. So before we're running out of time, and I would have loved to have heard more of them, but I want to get you out on time. So I'm just going to move on to our recap, unless anyone's got any questions on that. So I think we've all sort of come to the conclusion that no plan survives first contact, and they're not meant to. They're plans and they're meant to change. But I think that's especially true in 2020. And instead, you really have accelerated your positive strategic plans, from global coaching to improving your networks to taking on new challenges. And I hope you can see how much you've achieved under really, really intense circumstances. I think we should all be very proud of ourselves in November for how far we've come since March. So by combining the successes that you've already had, working on your maximum impact item, 2021 is actually looking a lot more hopeful. And there's really never been a better time for transformation. So finally, in the words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who has left such a formidable legacy, real change, enduring change, happens one step at a time. And I really do hope you can see how far we've all climbed this year. So there's probably about 2 or 3 minutes time for Q&A, and then we will finish up.
Amanda, thank you so much. Just from what you said earlier, I'd be very interested, and I'll say to Julie as well, if you were to do a webinar on business strategy, after we've gone through this exercise, it would be great to, expedite it in January with a webinar on business strategy. So if you're do that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd be delighted to. And I think that's the thing. We've had so much on this year. Today was to try and get us thinking around that. So if there's enough want for it, it's my absolute passion, and it's a total game changer for me. So if you'd like it, I'd be more than happy to do that. And obviously, in between, I'm on LinkedIn. So if I can help in any way, please just flick me a message. People, especially people like Nikki, have been so supportive, kind, and have made this year actually really hopeful and exciting. So if there's anything I can do to keep that virtuous circle going, I'd be delighted to. So thanks for that, Niamh.
No problem.
Okay, in that case, I will hand over to Julie. Thank you so much, everyone, for engaging so openly. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amanda, and thanks everyone. As you might have on that slide there, so thanks again so much for that. Just looking ahead there to our next session, which we have next month on the 9th of December. That will be hosted by Jonathan Logue, who's the Director of Learning and Development for LinkedIn. We will be talking a little bit on lessons learned in COVID. So he'll be sharing just his insights, his learnings, reflections, and his experiences of training, coaching, and consulting in a company during the pandemic. We touched on it a little bit today, but just to note as well, something about this next session is that this one won't be recorded. So pop it into your calendars because you don't want to miss it. So it's on the 9th of December. Pop an hour into your diaries there at 11 a.m. GMT. So thank you again so much, Amanda, for bringing us through that. I found it really interesting. And thank you everyone for joining us and for all your brilliant contributions and input. So looking forward to seeing you again, hopefully soon. In the meantime, if you want to catch up on these slides or the recordings, you can always ask to join our LinkedIn group if you haven't already. Okay, so thanks everyone, take care.
Thank you.